Welcome to the video everyone, and on the video right now you can see the Liverpool Civil and Family Courts, which is where I had my CICA rape case claim. So I went there the other day because I've got a lot going on at the moment. My business partner, he's really ill again, and he's got a lot of cases open, which he's asked me to finish for him while he's recovering. And they are quite a significant number. Then there's also others which need immediate action, and that's the number that are out ready to do and process, that's 10, and then there's another 15. I've also got my own cases which I've got open, and I'm bringing myself. So I'm bringing some cases. I'm bringing 8 cases against the UK police because I've got evidence against 8. And I'm bringing cases for negligence, which will then include misfeasance, non-feasance and malfeasance. And then there's some human rights issues as well. There's some legislation which, from my understanding and research, has not been, well, it's been used once, this legislation has. I'm going to be using it for my own court case. And it wasn't for a civil matter, it's for a criminal matter when it was used. I'm going to be using it for a civil matter against the police. After I finish these cases, that's going to be, I'm then going to be bringing legal action against the government 9 times, and that's going to be on unfair trial and similar breaches of the law that the police have followed. What's going on with the police? I've looked into it at a great and deep level because I'm going to be bringing a claim against them. And they've breached a hell of a lot of laws, and they've basically repeated the pattern that we are told that the Nazis followed in that time, when we're told that there was the whole genocide, like T4 action, but we're mainly focused on, our attention is mainly focused on the Jews. What they were doing was they were following recommendations rather than the laws. And regardless how you feel about the laws, they are written by the lawmakers, who are a large and diverse group. There's different races, different nationalities, different ethnicities, different belief systems, different religions, all making and creating the laws. So the laws should be protecting. If the laws are created to protect, then they should be followed because they are written by such a diverse group of people. But the laws aren't necessarily followed because people are following recommendations, or the public sector. And what I've discovered, I knew that the problem lay around about the time of Stephen Lawrence, or after Stephen Lawrence. What I was not so clear about at that point was the Macpherson report. So the Macpherson report was written by a Scottish man who sort of like a clan leader in many ways. He wrote these recommendations in the Macpherson report, and it was dictated to that the public sector, including the police, education system, housing, the whole lot followed these recommendations. But they're recommendations written by one man. And the problem that you have with following recommendations is that you don't have that diverse opinion of protection. You have this one person who's biased. And we went through all of this with COVID and the lockdown and all of that. Everyone was following these recommendations. So I'm going to be bringing negligence claims for neglecting to follow the laws and following recommendations instead, because I've not been following the news probably since about January time, really. I watched a couple of videos, and I'm not into alternative media either, because they're just repeating the same stuff that the mainstream media are repeating, and I just think that that's a manipulative narrative. So I do understand that there's going to be a new set of recommendations which are to be followed by the police or the public sector surrounding the grooming gangs, which I think is a terrible idea. We've already seen the consequences of following recommendations, and what I think is going to happen if they continue down this route of following recommendations is that there's going to be policing and authoritarian regimental following of it from one extreme to another extreme, and it's going to go against all of these different raced people who are here, all these immigrants. And then you have the whole Nazi show where you say, oh yeah, you acted racist at this point. So the grooming gang stuff will get buried, because it will be concentrating then on the extremist following of recommendations against the immigrant population. And then, then they'll start saying, oh, well, you owe it to the other nations that you correct your poor behaviour against them. So we're going to drag in a whole 10 billion people to live on this little island so that you can prove how non-racist you are. It just goes round in circles, and I don't really see the point in them following recommendations. You've got your laws, you're meant to follow your laws. So hopefully my court case will get in before they start following the recommendations, but if they don't, then I will add a caveat in there saying, the reason why I don't go to the police about crimes is because you don't even follow the laws. You don't believe in the laws. So why would I turn to you with any sort of legal issue or criminal issue? Why would I do that? And that is part of my negligence claim. So I'm saying that I would never turn to the police to provide them with information on a crime if I ever became a victim of a crime, because they don't actually follow the laws themselves. I also have evidence that 52% of the population do not trust the police. So this is all because they are no longer following the laws. The legislation which I'm using against them, which hasn't really been used before, that's going to win. And I'm also using disability, discrimination, but I'm using discrimination on 3 counts: gender, race. So this is going to be I call it white hate in my claim. White hate, so racism, gender, and disability. And disability will certainly win, because if you think back to the COVID lockdown and everything and mask wearing, there was a disabled man who wasn't allowed entry into a supermarket. So he argued, he took that supermarket to court, and on the basis of it happening once, on one occasion, he was awarded £9,000 for the failure to let him into the supermarket as a disabled person without a mask. So the disabled element is most certainly going to win. The gender element is going to win because most of the victims are female, and so the police shouldn't be should acknowledge that the victims are going to be mainly women and accommodate for that. Then there is the race issue. The other element, with the legislation, which I won't go into at the moment because I've got to really consider that I am actually laying out this properly and correctly. But I think that will win, and it will apply the law solidly. If you think about assault, because the first assault case against the police was, they found the police negligent because there was, I've forgotten the case name and I'll try and remember it, but the policeman was heavy-handed with the suspect. So the suspect said, no, that was assault. And then the courts ruled that even the slightest breeze of a touch, which was unwanted by the suspect, would be assault. So they will be very heavy-handed with the law, I suppose, in applying it. So they'll be saying, and this is all about what I've been saying to do with genocide, based on the Rwanda genocide. And I'll go into it in detail a little bit later when I've kind of got it all out of the way. But they were Marxists, and we're seeing that they were Marxists at the moment. The defence from one of the accused who did get prosecuted, they were saying, well, I wouldn't do such a thing because I'm a feminist. And that was her legal defence. She said, my legal defence is that I'm a feminist, so I would never have masses of women raped. But of course she did. And so we're basically, I'm basically following that. I think that the law will be, with so much going on around the grooming gangs, I think that the law, the justices will be quite heavy in their application of it, which is rightly so, because the error has been that they've been following the recommendations rather than following the laws. There's breaches of the Human Rights, of the Equalities Act, and the Public Order Act as well, 1986. So there's a lot going on, and I don't think that I'm going to be around for a couple of months while I just get on top of this massive pile of work. I think that it's going to be about an 8-month wait until it goes through and gets registered with some kind of reference code as well. So there's a lot going on. So I'll leave it there, and hopefully I'll be back in a couple of months, but it's going to be quite a while yet because there is so much going on and I'm absolutely snowed under. I might try and get some posts out on Substack, and I can link them in the community area, and that's it really. So I'll leave it there, and take good care of yourselves, and I'll catch you soon.